Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Be Well Live series. My name is Dr. Melanie Carminati, and I am the founder of Inspira Physical Therapy and Pilates here in Park Slope in Carroll Gardens, Brooklyn, New York. Inspira is a virtual team of doctors of physical therapy and Pilates practitioners. We specialize in advanced orthopedics, Pilates rehab, pelvic floor, PT, and so much more. If you want to learn more, just check out our social media and website. Today, our special guest is Kit Bihun. So Kit, thank you so much for being here. I'm just going to do a quick intro for you, and then we can get into our chat about innovation and the transformative power of Pilates. So for those who don't know Kit is a Pilates teacher here in Brooklyn, New York City area. She's also a writer and designer. She earned her BA in visual art and theater from George Mason University and her MA in design studies from Central St. Martin's College of Art and Design. She practiced Pilates for over 15 years before transitioning to teaching full-time in 2015. Kit is focused on creating systems of balance and physical awareness in all of her classes, and I can vouch for that. Her goal is to facilitate exercise that allows participants to realize one's full potential as an everyday ninja. So, Kit, thank you so much for being here. Hello, Kim. Hi, Lisha. Hello, GOX Design. Thanks for joining us, guys. So before we get into the chat, I just want to remind everyone who's watching to stick around. Hi, stick around. Those viewers who are the last 5 to give us a thumbs up in the comments section will get a complimentary virtual Pilates class at Inspira PT, and then also at with the Pilates Dojo herself, Kit. So I wanted to share a bit of Joseph Pilates before we started with the questions. This just kind of came to me today when it was floating around in my mind. But as I'm sure you know, Joseph Pilates said that physical fitness is the first requisite of happiness. Our interpretation of physical fitness is the attainment and maintenance of a uniformly developed body with a sound mind, fully capable of naturally, easily, and satisfactorily performing our many and varied daily tasks with spontaneous zest and pleasure. So that is what it feels like to do Pilates. So creating that experience for clients as an instructor, as a practitioner, requires knowledge, skill, energy, and creativity. So when you're teaching, Kit, and when you're, organizing your classes or one-on-ones, how do you bring creativity into Pilates for your clients?
So I have developed over time, so over a few years, one of the main things I bring to my classes and to private sessions is movement and body and function observation. So when people come into a room or when I'm working with them one-on-one, I'm not looking at their movement in the exercise. I'm looking at how they get up and get down. So I feel like that's something that I've been able to work on and probably enhance with my theater and art background. So drawing nude figures in college, and then movement. I was a dancer and I did clowning. So clowning is a lot of everyday observation. So you're basically just watching people, any like tick or habit that they might have, you bring it onto yourself to see how it feels. And then because of that, when I see people, I am really drawn to how they move in a room. And usually from seeing that, you can kind of figure out like where they lean to, if a shoulder dips, if a hip is hiked, and then getting up and down. So that's been inspired a lot by my own movement and artistic background.
So it's more so the transitions. It's the transitions
Yeah, and
between
also
the
like
exercise.
we learn as teachers and also physical therapists, like most people hurt themselves in between the exercise. So everyone's well behaved in an exercise. They're trying their hardest. They're really listening. They're really paying attention. But then once they know that the exercise is done, we kind of just fall back into how we naturally are. And that's usually like the golden moment of when you can see what's happening to someone.
So how has it evolved now during quarantine? Like how do you bring that into your teaching?
It's been very interesting. So a lot of the people who've been working with me or continue to work with me, I have spent a lot of time with them. So I know their habits and I know their bodies pretty well. Um, but the difference is I'm seeing them in their natural habitat, so in their homes, and they do move differently. So posturally, if someone's more comfortable in their home, they might actually stand up straighter versus like the tension that someone can hold outside. Or the transition in the movement is a lot more fluid. So they're not hurting themselves. They're in their own apartment. They're in their own space. The comfort level is so much different. But with anyone who's new, I've learned to not be afraid to ask questions in the middle of an exercise. Whereas before, you do all of the work in the beginning, like, are there any injuries I should know about? Oh, yes, can you tell me more about that? Any movements that you usually stay away from? And I think, as you and I both know, when we're dealing with new people, not everyone is going to be as forthcoming. So they're not going to tell everything because, a lot of times they don't remember or they don't think it's applicable to the movement. So usually in a class, it'll be right in the middle of something and someone will raise their hand and be like, oh, I forgot to tell you, I have a bulging disc. And you're, okay, great, we'll move this. So it's, in the beginning, people were a little bit more nervous about whether or not they should say anything. But now that I think everyone's getting used to, this is the climate, this is what we have to do. Also, because in the news, everything is either about, a social movement where we have to be honest with ourselves or physical distancing, where we still have to be honest with ourselves or being aware of everything. There's a lot more forthcoming information that I'm getting. And yeah, so as a teacher, I think I have to be a lot more open because sometimes we're working on an exercise that I think is just going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. I love it. And then right as I'm showing it, I'll ask a question like, does everyone feel okay? And then someone will say, not so much. So that's actually changed my teaching habit of, on its own. Like, okay, be open to not being the Pilates genius that I thought I was. Or like, just making that adjustment in the moment.
Forever a student, right? We're always learning, forever a student. I just want to delve deeper into what you were saying about how people don't always remember in the beginning when you ask them about their history. And what I find is that either for me as a PT, if I start doing hands-on work or for Pilates movements, once they start moving, the memory will come back, right? So they'll remember, wow, they're doing it. The movement itself helps to release whatever was trapped. If it's fascia, whatever you're doing, fascial release, or if it's hands-on or movement, it brings back the memory. The memory comes back and they're able to share the information some more. So what would you say, like, what feeds your creativity in teaching? Is it still the art base, the whole sketching and the design and stuff, or?
Actually, it's, working with such diverse populations. And in Pilates, I actually haven't been teaching that long. And this is one of the fitness professions where the longer you teach, the more comfortable you can be. But I've only been teaching for 5 years. Right. And I've encountered such a range of bodies. We learn that every body is different. Bodies move different. They've encountered things differently. And I think paying attention to that and honestly wanting each person to succeed. So I want everyone to succeed, but they will succeed differently. And that means I need to learn as much as I can and pull in different, any tool that I have to make an adjustment, a variation, or a modification that will help that person succeed. And I think that's how I can stay or try to stay creative in my classes. Any class I've taken anywhere else, if I can remember something that was done that, I might think it would help with this one person, I'll try it, because it'll help everyone. Yes. So I'm also a big believer that when someone says a modification, adding that extra note, like a modification does not make it easier. It's just different, and helping people understand that all movement is good movement. They will find a sense of accomplishment within whatever movement is happening, but we want to be comfortable, we want to be safe, and safe also means succeeding in the middle of that movement.
Yes. I believe it's Brent Anderson who said that our goal is to give clients and patients a positive movement experience, right? So you want to have them experience that. So going back to the Pilates method and how everything has been evolving, you know, I spoke about this in the first chat with Blossom about the evolution, how there's so many kinds of Pilates. And when we're getting creative with the movement method itself, where is that line between, you know, Pilates and a whole nother movement method?
Well, it's really interesting because something that Blossom mentioned is that, you know, pre the 2000 end of the lawsuit, right?
Yes.
You know, everyone, it was like a craftsmanship, it was an apprenticeship where people would go to an elder and study that one person's method, and then they would either stay with that elder or go off and own their own studio or work for someone else. And you know, the Pilates method itself has had many deviations, many variations. And then post 2000, we had schools pop up and training certifications pop up where, you know, the MAT method is for the most part taught the same way, except you find out, you know, you think it is, but then you find out from other teachers that they never learned, what is it, crab? Crab is one that goes back and forth. People are either going to learn it or not. Or, you know, they learned a different way to do star, or they don't call it star. So I think, you know, the other thing with Pilates is that it's not even a century old, so there's still, you know, plenty of room to play with it and understand it. I believe very strongly that you can't change a method until you understand the basis of that method. So learning as much as you can about the origination of it, the history of certain exercises. I mean, when I found out about stomach massage, you know, it helped me understand it. I still don't like it, but but I can find the grace and the beauty within that exercise. And in terms of creating a new method, I think that's really hard right now. In all of the time that I've been exercising, you know, doing movement in college, high school, so I've been kind of a workout junkie for a long time. You know, I haven't learned anything that I thought was totally new until I did Pilates apparatus exercises. And then you find out it's been around for a while. But right now in this moment, I think there's a chance that something new can come up because, you know, there's so many of us at home, you know, spending so much time thinking, you know, practicing with partners, roommates, or the brave students who are up for anything that, you know, all of the training that we have, I don't think is going to go to waste. I think we're going to use that training and figure out something new. I'm not sure if it's going to be totally new though. I mean, with all the science and the research that's come out, the goal I think is the same, is functional movement, or at least I hope the goal is functional movement. I'm highly encouraged to hear less about calories and fat burning and more about like longevity and, you know, health span and, you know, not so much about like, I mean, you still hear booty burn, but it's not so much booty burn. So I think the line is very, very lightly drawn in the sand.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like it's a sandy surface.
Yes, I agree with that. And I agree with what you're saying that, you know, it really doesn't become a whole new method as long as you're still sticking to the key foundational principles, right? Breath, flow, precision, centering, stabilization, all of those principles, those foundational principles of Pilates. If you still are bringing that into the movement method, regardless if you're doing a stretch in between an exercise or if you're using a fascial release tool to start or somewhere along the exercise program that you're doing, it still can be Pilates. Now, obviously, there's a difference of opinion for many people on this, you know, classical, rehab, modern, whatnot. But I'm totally with you on that, that as long as it's sticking to the foundational principle of the movement method itself, then it still is Pilates. So Pilates is so unique, and Joseph Pilates was super passionate about his method and really believed that it could transform people's lives. How do you feel like Pilates can be used even more so now during these challenging times to help people with self-discipline in their wellness, and then also with self-care?
Well, I mean, you mentioned the Pilates principles,
Yeah.
and three of them are what breath control and focus, or centering and focus.
Centering, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a low impact resistance training protocol. Low
Mm-hmm.
impact, anything is better for the joints,
Mm-hmm.
but it's ultimate resistance. So you're going to get all of these wonderful benefits from this practice. I think the consistency of it, and the fact that when you do the method, or when you do any of the exercises, you have to have that mind body connection. Some of these exercises are just, they don't look complicated, but when you do them, they are so complicated. It's one of the things that we all understand, that the mat method is harder than apparatus. But a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times people come into it brand new thinking the opposite. And, just the focus that you have to have in a mat class,
Mm-hmm.
this is one of the reasons why people leave feeling better. It was difficult, it was challenging, they were surprised, but they had to focus. They had to connect their brain to what their body was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not objective about Pilates, so so I
Oh.
mean, just what it's done for me being home. I usually walk, or was walking, at least 6 miles a day. I would walk to the studio, I'd walk back to my apartment. Just movement and being outside and accessibility to things that we no longer have. I think since I am doing Pilates every day, sometimes, a few times a day, because I have my classes, I feel that I am less anxious and calmer than I was before the pause, and before anything hinted at the pause. So let's say 2019 me, was more anxious versus 2020 me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's been helping me process everything that's going on. And it's creating that space for people to just have that time to themselves. And I have a good quote. I wrote it down. I mean, Audre Lorde has so many amazing quotes, and and also Twyla Tharp. Audre Lorde and Twyla Tharp are my movement quotes that I love. So Audre Lorde has, "Caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it's self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare." So like right now in this time, just take care of yourself. Take that moment, treasure yourself, right? Be passionate about what your body is doing and where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then Twyla Tharp, she actually just released a book. She has two. I don't know if it was like 10 years ago, 10 or 15 years ago, she did something called the Creative Habit. So
Mm-hmm.
like a
Yes.
daily movement habit.
Yes.
Love the book.
Uh-huh.
This one is about being older and also keeping the motivation to still move forward. And
Mm-hmm.
the one quote is, "If you look at your body as a job, then gathering the discipline to stay strong and limber isn't a chore. Fitness expands our social, emotional, and intellectual well-being." And then the second part is, "Let's not just burn calories, let's use our calories. Many people think I should exercise because it will make me look better. No, you're burning calories to acquire skills, and you're honing those skills with challenges you set up for yourself." So,
Mm-hmm.
just the consistency of Pilates itself is, I think, just a wonderful thing to incorporate. I mean, any movement, if anyone can focus on movement for a consecutive amount of time, without the added stressors of, I need to look good this day,
Yeah.
or I need to, this idea of I need to,
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that this is a time where people can say, I want to,
Yeah.
I want to do this.
Right.
Um,
Right.
in like a 20-minute, 10-minute, anything you could do for yourself.
Absolutely. And you touched on something there that I had brought up in, I believe, the chat that I had with Catherine Fugelsang, the acupuncturist, about
Mm-hmm.
sympathetic overdrive and
Mm,
those people who experience anxiety or symptoms of anxiousness, and how Pilates is really powerful for helping with that.
mm-hmm.
Because when you practice Pilates, like you said, it is a mind-body movement method. And in order to do it, you have to be present and in your body in order to do it properly. And then afterwards you feel that zest and that joy that Joseph Pilates is talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I wanted to just wrap up our conversation with getting to hear about the myofascial tools that you're working on.
Yes, I have it right here. Um,
Yay!
And this is the official color it's being printed in. So
Cool.
I still don't have a name for it, but the
Okay.
idea behind it was to make this like the Swiss Army knife of a
Okay.
fascial tool.
Okay. Okay.
So um, I've been thinking about it as a teacher for a while, where we
Yeah.
have the pinky ball, nothing wrong with any of the tools that are out there. Pinky ball, Franklin balls, foam rollers, all of it, wonderful, wonderful things. The only thing that I always thought about and I kept waiting for someone to make is that I wished it was narrow and a little bit
Yeah.
longer to fit in between certain spaces of the body. So
Hmm.
specifically like the scapula and the spine, there's that like path of muscle
Right.
down. You
Uh-huh.
don't want to hit
Uh-huh.
the bone. This is a lot easier to get in between. So one idea. And then also like behind the neck when you're sitting on the couch. So these are things that I've just obsessed about for so long.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so it can work right now, testing, because it's all testing. It stays still, so it doesn't roll away. You can use it in your hand and up and down, and it feels like knuckles. So my husband thinks we can call it knuckles, but I don't know about that. I'm going back and
Hmm.
forth
Hmm.
um, and spell it like an acronym for something. But what would the acronym be? Yes. So anyone
Hmm.
who has ideas about the name, um, yeah, I'm
You're
up for it.
accepting names.
I'm accepting names, but this is also, I think anyone who works with fascia and myofascial release,
Yeah.
it's not intended to be painful.
Yeah.
So a lot of us as professionals, we're trying to tell people you don't want it to hurt. So that's the other thing, the idea of like hurting yourself.
Pilates girls at NYC says very cool.
Oh, thank you. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't read anything. um, so this is gentle enough to work through the porcupine, maybe. So this
Wow.
is, yeah, any names. This is gentle enough to
Ooh.
work across it. And if you understand fascia, the ribbons across the body,
Yes.
it's just kind of opens and closes those fascial points.
Yes. Yes.
So creating it, I wanted it to be convenient, something you put in your pocket, but also something that was accessible for everyone because I think people get overwhelmed with the amount of tools that
Mm.
can be at a studio. They're
Mm-hmm.
interested in it. I found that clients and students are interested in the tools. They love it when they use it, but the responsibility of getting it and taking it home sometimes overwhelms them. So I was trying to create a foolproof, this is what you can use at home and you don't have to think a lot about it.
Mm-hmm.
So under the foot, all of those and lymphatic sections of the body. So this wonderful lymphatic area,
Mm-hmm.
very gentle up and
Mm-hmm.
down. Oh, yeah, gua sha, if anyone does gua sha,
Right.
part of that idea, but you should do gua sha as well.
In addition.
In addition to, yes.
Very cool. So, the design process for that, how did that, I mean,
Yes,
you have education in design, so this
yes.
is
So
unfamiliar to me at all.
I do have a design background, and my husband is also a product designer.
Cool.
So I not only have access to my own design skills, I have access to a 3D printer. And
Hey.
so he can take my two-dimensional drawing and turn it into a four-dimensional model. Um,
Cool.
and the speed in which this works. So, every week is like a year right now. So, so taking the
Yes.
time to make something,
Mm-hmm.
usually this would take like 6 months, and then you have another 6 months to product test, and then
Mm-hmm.
maybe another three more months before it's released. This took 2 weeks to iterate, so to sketch out, design, test different versions of it in a very hard, not comfortable to use material. And then after we found one that, kind of, I couldn't press on it because it was still too hard to press, but I could place it in different areas of the body. Um, then we printed it in a softer material. So it's a little, I don't know if you can see, it's a little squishy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, you know, get it printed and out for me to test and to send to some people to try out in less than a week.
Cool.
So having access, I think two designers in a house, you're always going to come up with something, you know.
Yes. Cool. Well, Kit, thank you so much. This was a fun chat about the power of Pilates and innovation. And for those who are still viewing, if you are one of the last 5 people to give us a thumbs up in the comments section, so the last 5 to give us a thumbs up, you will get a complimentary Pilates class at Inspira PT and Pilates, and also with Kit at Pilates Dojo. So I just want to give a quick note about Friday 5:30. I will be having another guest to finish off the Be Well Live series. Sarah Choi is a holistic nurse and the founder of Sarong Healing. So we will be chatting about compassionate self-care and shifting your internal dialogue to that of self-love. She's also going to finish off our chat with some sound healing, so like
I
a
love it. I
sound
love
bath.
sound bath.
Yes, so I'm really excited for it. So you guys tune in Friday, 5:30 Instagram here on Unspira Physical Therapy. And that's it. So Kit, thank you so much. We'll be in touch. Everybody else, have a good night. Stay safe. Bye-bye,
Bye.
guys. Bye.